Hi, the SI meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Thursday, March 14th. Well, we're about halfway done with the month of March, and I thought I'd take a look at the second half of the month to see what kind of temperature pattern we may have in store for us. And indeed, it looks like it'll remain colder than normal for much of the central and eastern part of the country during the second half of the month of March. One of the reasons why is a blocking pattern that will set up across Canada over the next several days. We talk about blocking patterns quite often. There are different kinds of blocking patterns. This is can be referred to as an omega-shaped blocking pattern that we'll be setting up because it pretty much mimics the Greek letter omega in terms of the flow in the upper part of the atmosphere. We'll show that in a moment. It looks like this blocking pattern will do a couple of things. First, it'll kind of force some cold air down into the central and eastern U.S. over the next couple of weeks, and it will prevent any of the warm air that will be building up across the southwestern U.S. over the next few days from expanding to the north and east. This is a 500 millibar forecast map for about 10 or 11 days from now, the last week of March. And just look at what's going on up here in Canada. We kind of have a low pressure trough here in the upper part of the atmosphere in western Canada, high pressure in the upper part of the atmosphere in central Canada, and then low pressure here in the eastern part of Canada. Again, this is about 10 or 11 days out. If you follow the wind flow, it generally goes something like this, around the high in the middle part of Canada, then on the around the trough here. Again, this is the general flow pattern with low pressure here, high pressure in the middle, low pressure here. Kind of mimics the omega, Greek letter omega, in terms of the flow pattern in the upper part of the atmosphere. And again, this will help to drive some cold air down into the central and eastern part of the U.S. Here's a flow right out of northern Canada coming across the Great Lakes. And any air that builds up over the next few days will just have really an impossible time of trying to advance to the north and east with this kind of a block in the upper atmosphere over Canada. In fact, they will reach 90 degrees in Phoenix and Los Angeles over the next few days, but with this kind of a block in the upper atmosphere, it'll be pretty much impossible, other than maybe a day or two, for us to get really warm here in the Mid-Atlantic region over the next couple of weeks. Let's also now take a look at the North Atlantic Oscillation. That's another way to kind of follow the possibility of a blocking pattern in the upper atmosphere. Well, these next several charts are from the Raleigh Weather website, and this is first the last night's European ensemble run for the North Atlantic Oscillation. Now, generally, a negative NAO indicates a possibility of blocking places like Hudson Bay and Greenland up to our north, and indeed that looks like what the forecast map is, and that was, by the way, from the GFS model run from last night. Again, this is the NAO forecast all the way out pretty much to the end of the month of March from the European ensembles, negative all the way through. Let's now take a look at the GFS model. And this is from last night's 0Z GFS ensemble run, also negative all the way through pretty much to the end of March. Again, this suggests some blocking will develop and maintain itself over to our north here, and that again will promote some colder air masses to move into the central and eastern part of the country throughout this time period. Well, one other type of map off the Raleigh Weather website I'd like to show here is a temperature anomalies in the lowest part of the atmosphere, 850 millibars, just a couple thousand feet off the ground. And this goes all the way out through 15 days. This particular map here is for the first 5 days, days 1 through 5, and all the blues and purples represent colder than normal. So you can see over the next 5 days, basically a cold pattern here across the northern tier of the country and southern part of Canada. Let's now jump ahead to the 6 to 10 day time frame. And here it is, stays 6 to 10 days out, continued colder than normal pattern here across the southern part of Canada, the northern tier of the U.S. Some warm air is trying to build up again in the southwestern part of the U.S., but it will not be able to penetrate into the northern tier with this blocking pattern that sets up. Now look at days 11 to 15, and here it is. A cold pattern for the central and eastern U.S. maintains itself pretty much right to the end of March now. We're at the very end of the month of March here. Again, these are from last night's GFS ensemble runs, just keeping the cold weather pattern here in the central and east for the next couple of weeks right through the month of March. We'll continue to monitor this over the next several days. That's it for now. For the SIWeather.com, I'm meteorologist Paul Dorian.